I had an assignment for Time magazine in Pakistan, and this assignment became a scoop because I was there to do a portrait of Benazir Bhutto, and after the session, she invited me for a dinner, and during the dinner, she gets the information she's in house arrest. So I was the only journalist inside, and that story became a scoop.
Ja, das waren die Worte von Sarah Caron, einer französischen Fotojournalistin, und wie es mit dem Scoop weiterging und wie es ihr fotografisches Leben danach geprägt hat. Davon erzählt sie in diesem Interview. Aufgenommen habe ich es im vergangenen Jahr im Rahmen der Medientage des Fotofestivals Baden Photo, und es ist das vorletzte Interview, was noch im Archiv liegt. Ein letztes folgt dann noch mit dem französischen Fotojournalisten Pascal Maître, und dann ist es auch schon fast soweit, und die nächste Auflage von Europas größtem Open-Air-Fotoferstival steht vor der Tür. Los geht es am 13. Juni und das Ganze läuft dann noch bis zum 13. Oktober, und auch in diesem Jahr werden Thomas Jones und ich wieder bei den Medientagen im August dabei sein und von diesem Festival berichten. Vorab wird dann auch das traditionelle Interview mit Festivaldirektor Lois Lammerhuber noch kommen. Also ja, das nächste große Ereignis wirft seine Schatten voraus. Ja, und ich hoffe, dass du Freude an den Interviews hast, die wir von diesem Festival immer mitbringen. Die meisten leider in Anführungszeichen auf Englisch, aber ja, ich hoffe, dass du trotzdem folgen kannst. Das sind einfach Gespräche und Gelegenheiten, dort mit Weltklasse Fotojournalisten zusammenzukommen, sich hinzusetzen, mit ihnen zu sprechen und von ihren faszinierenden Arbeiten zu erfahren. Diesmal geht die Reise nach Pakistan. Sarah Caron hat im Laufe ihrer fotografischen Karriere dieses Land eindrucksvoll dargestellt in all seinen Facetten, und was Pakistan ausmacht, davon berichtet sie in diesem Interview. Im letztjährigen Festivalkatalog wurde Sarah Carons Leben als romanhaft beschrieben. Genauer gesagt hieß es dort, ein geradezu romanhaftes Leben, das sie auch in einer Graphic Novel verarbeitet hat. Doch Sarah Carons Geschichte beginnt weit vor dem Jahr 2007. Schon mit ihren ersten Arbeiten, die in Indien entstanden sind, machte sie auf sich aufmerksam. Die Bilder von den Witwen, die in den Norden des Landes ins Exil gehen, wurden 1999 beim Festival Visa pour l'Image gezeigt. In der Folge entschied sich Sarah Caron, die eigentlich Balletttänzerin werden wollte, endgültig für die Fotografie und die Reportage. In ihren Bildern, die stets würdevoll und nie reißerisch sind, behandelt sie die wichtigsten Themen, jene, über die nicht ausreichend gesprochen wird. So auch in ihren Arbeiten über Pakistan, in dem das Leben der Frauen dort eine große Rolle spielt. Ja, ein spannendes Gespräch, auf das du dich freuen kannst, und bevor es losgeht, noch ein ganz kurzer Hinweis zu den diesjährigen Fotoworkshops, die wir auch im Rahmen von Abenteuer-Reportage-Fotografie veranstalten, dem Projekt, das ich gemeinsam mit Thomas Jones mache. Wenn du das noch nicht kennst, schau dort gerne mal vorbei auf www.abenteuer-reportagefotografie.de. Ja, und in diesem Jahr hatten wir wieder vor, nach Helsinki und nach Lissabon zu fahren. Ja, die Buchungslage ist leider noch nicht so, wie wir uns das selbst gewünscht haben. Die Mindestteilnehmerzahl ist in beiden Workshops noch nicht erreicht. Ja, und um Planungssicherheit sowohl für diejenigen zu gewährleisten, die sich bereits angemeldet haben, aber auch für uns selbst haben wir jetzt entschieden, dass die Buchungsphase noch bis zum 15. April 2024 offen ist, sprich für den Helsinki-Workshop. Wenn wir bis dahin die nötige Mindestteilnehmerzahl nicht erreicht haben, dann müssen wir den Workshop leider absagen. Also, falls du überlegst und dich bisher noch nicht entschieden hast, melde dich gerne bei mir, wenn noch offene Fragen sind. Ich helfe dir gerne weiter, und dann würde ich mich freuen, wenn du mit dabei bist und wir gemeinsam in Helsinki Street Photography und Reportagefotografie erleben. Helsinki ist ja für mich eine ganz besondere Stadt. Ich habe dort lange gelebt, kenne mich dort bestens aus und war im vergangenen Jahr das erste Mal dort auch mit einer Gruppe von Fotografen. Es hat sehr, sehr viel Spaß gemacht, und ich ich kann dir versprechen, auch wenn du nicht sehr viel über Helsinki weißt, es ist eine Stadt, die zu begeistern weiß. Gerade im Sommer blüht das Leben dort auf, findet draußen auf der Straße statt. Ja, und es ist ein fantastischer Ort, um zu fotografieren. Im November geht es dann nach Lissabon. Auch da haben wir gesagt, wir setzen einen Zeitpunkt fest, bis wohin die Mindestteilnehmerzahl erreicht sein muss. Und das ist in diesem Fall der 31. Mai 2024. Auch für Lissabon gilt das Gleiche wie für Helsinki. Eine tolle Stadt, gerade im November. Wenn es in Deutschland schon ungemütlich kalt wird, dann ist es dort in Portugals Hauptstadt noch sehr mild und beste Bedingungen, um rauszugehen und Street Photography zu machen. Ja, und wenn du diese Episode zeitnah hörst, dann komm doch am kommenden Mittwoch, den 10. April 2024 ab 19 Uhr bei Zoom vorbei. In der Infoveranstaltung für den Lissabon-Workshop zeige ich dir Bilder und beantworte all deine Fragen. Den Link zum Zoom-Raum findest du in den Shownotes zu dieser Folge in deiner Podcast-App oder in der Terminübersicht auf www.abenteuer-fotografie.de/Terminübersicht. Ich würde mich sehr freuen, wenn du auf die Workshops noch mit aufspringst und wir dann anfangen können, das Ganze konkret zu planen. Die Links mit weiteren Informationen und natürlich auch der Buchungsmöglichkeit findest du in den Shownotes deiner Podcast-App oder schreib mir bei eventuell noch offenen Fragen direkt eine E-Mail an info@gate7.de. 7 ausgeschrieben, nicht als Zahl. Die E-Mail-Adresse gibt's natürlich auch nochmal in den Shownotes. So, und jetzt direkt hinein in das Interview mit Sarah Caron. Viel Spaß! Well, Sarah, thank you very much for taking the time to do this interview. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, we had yesterday already the chance to talk at length at the dinner table, which I quite enjoyed, and it's always good to have this, to go into an interview with a little bit more knowledge and have already talked to someone. So I really enjoyed that, and I hope that we can make some reference to what we talked about yesterday already. You are presented here at the photo festival in Baden with a series about Pakistan. You also did a book with Lois Lammerhuber in his editorial, which just came out with your work from Pakistan. Before we talk about that, let's go back a little bit in time and speak about how you came or how you fell in love with photography in the first place. Why did you choose the camera to be your tool to tell stories?
Oh, okay. So, long time ago, I discovered photography. I don't discover photography. I wanted to use the photography to tell story. Seeing a book of Cristina Garcia Rodero. She's a Spanish photographer, and the book was making to me a visual shock, was calling España Oculta. It was about las fiestas in España. It was about, every village in Spain have its days of fiesta, and they are linked with religious dates. It's the day of this saint of representing the village. So she was having a regards very special about it, and always in this photography was having something funny but elegant, and at the same time very documentary and very interesting. So it was a shock for me, because I realized with that book, with that photo she took, photography is a memory of the world, in fact. And I was having 17 years, and for me it was a revelation. I wanted really use that medium to tell stories, and she inspired me a lot. So many years passed, and I started really to took photos for the first time in 1994 going to Cuba. I was having finished my study about Spain and South America, and I went to Cuba to basically to started to document Cuba with photography in black and white, and I was doing my print myself, and it was a handmade style of work. So I start like that, and after having spending 3 months in Cuba, I came back, I developed the photo, and I make an exhibition in La Fnac in Bordeaux, in the south of France. And somebody from Gamma saw the photos, and he proposed to me to have a meeting in Paris and to diffuse my work and to work some time for them on assignment. So I started quickly, in fact, because in 1995, I was already having assignments for this agency. And, but Gamma was not a good place for me because I was young and I was a woman, and the mentality of that man, very chauvinist, was not suitable for me. So I left, and I was lucky I met Christian Cojol. Christian Cojol, for photographers in France, is a personality very interesting and very helping, because he can sit with you and discuss about why you do this and how you do this, and to develop, to go more deep. And he was a sort of mentor for me. And so I spent a few years in View Agency, and I really started to develop the storytelling on the way of like you said, you can say it's a grand reportage, traveling to different country and to tell story with a photo, and like that.
Let's stop there for a moment, because I think it's very interesting that you said he was one of your most important mentors, or one of the mentors that you had on the way, and that he also taught you about the art of storytelling. So these are two topics I find very interesting. What made him a great mentor to you? What was it that he taught you, that you learned from him?
Like I just said, the discussion, it was just exchanges, the conversation about photography and the inspiration. He was also having a huge knowledge about photography, but in general, not only one kind or one style or one things. He was interested about any kind of things, like a photographer doing some montage, like ukulele, or it was opening the mind, and one day, of course, when he proposed to me to come to the agency, to join the agency, his first question was, what do you expect from us, from me and from the agency? And of course, I tell him I expect to have assignments, to get more job. And he said, okay, but which kind? And I said, I don't know, whatever, just a newspaper is calling you and asking you for a photographer, and just ask me to be the photographer you will send there and there. And he said, but Sarah, you wanted to have a daily commission, in the sense of, to make an assignment one day about one things, and just for one photo be published in one newspaper. This don't make sense, because you are already doing long story, and you are already constructing your story, making a storytelling. So continue to do that. This is what is you, in fact. You don't need to change that. Many photographers I have in my agency, they dream for that, and you are doing it already in your young age. So continue to do that. So basically, help me to keep my way on the way. Not to go to look on the different sides and to be lost in the different options. This was very important in that time, because when you are young, you are looking for different things. You don't know exactly. It helped me to keep the line, This was important.
to stay on course on what you already were doing.
Yeah, to try to do it more deep and more better and more intensely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And these were stories that you did on Cuba. You said that Cuba was your first country that's become very important for you. You've went there a couple of times or over the years or so. This is a country that you know very well. You made various stories there, and one connection you had with Cuba, I think, in the beginning was that you have a love for ballet, and ballet was something that you connected with in Cuba when you first came over there. It was one of the stories you did there.
Yes. The first time I went there, I was having 15 years, and I was making ballet in France, and I was having that amazing school of Alicia Alonso, the Cuban classic ballet. So I get to know there is classes in summer during the summer holidays for foreigners. So I make the application and I go to that school and I do two times these classes, 2 times 1 month. So, and it was much before to being photographer, much before to discover Cristina Garcia Rodero. So after, when I started photography, I had to choose in between ballet and photography because both it was not possible to dedicate all your time in both things is not. But I think the ballet helped me to develop also that, how you said, endurance, to develop that, volunteer to work hardly because you need to walk in the street to take photo. You need to have, it's a sort of sport. You need to have a body prepared for that. It's hard, in fact. And also when you take photo, you have to jump sometime. You have to change to go down, to go up, to move. Mm-hmm. And that movement is also part of the photography. So after some time, I realized the movement you are doing around your subject is a sort of ballet. So it was linked and it was, something in relation, I can say it, yeah.
It's a beautiful picture that you painted there, or a metaphor to compare photography to a dance, I can imagine that.
Everything is about also to look for the good gest, to make the in the frame, to put aesthetic and emotion and information.
Right.
It's the same when you are making a choreography. Mm-hmm. And in fact, you put the same emotion and sentiment, and it's just the tool is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And the camera is, as you said, it's a tool that you employ to tell your stories, but as a photographer, you need to find that kind of stories that you want to tell, and to develop then around that your vision or your way of telling these stories. How did that come about? How what kind of stories do you feel are you drawn to? What is it that strikes your curiosity and makes you take pictures of a topic?
This I still don't know.
You just feel it.
Yes, sometimes this came by hazard. Sometimes it's just because you are there looking something and something is attracting you, and finally you want to know more, and your curiosity is making the rest, and is making the fact you will do a story from something in fact was just one vision, very, very quick and very fast. And this is for the intuition and what you wanted to do. Of course, with the time when I started to be photojournalist, means working for magazines, this became different. Of course, I started to be interested about geopolitics and interested about what the war the world work, and this became another curiosity, another necessity to develop the story, but with trying to have the journalistic knowledge before to start to do photos, and it's a mix of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I explain it well. The English is not my language, so I tried my best, but I hope you understand.
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
It's all right. It's great. And Sarah, then there came a change, or like from Cuba, you went to another region and to another country, which is Pakistan. How did that come about? Why did Pakistan become a country that you focused a great deal of your photographic career on?
This came much more late. In between was having a lot of other places, other country, and other stories. No, this came in 2008. I had an assignment for Time magazine in Pakistan, and this assignment became a scoop because I was there to do a portrait of Benazir Bhutto, and after the session, she invited me for a dinner, and during the dinner, she gets the information she's in house arrest. So I was the only journalist inside, and that story became a scoop. So this make a big change in the sense of other American magazine wanted me to work for them. So after Time, it was Newsweek, and after Newsweek, it was New York Times Magazine, and I was going back home, but I was getting a new assignment always in Pakistan. So this make me to work there, but it was the circumstances of the demand, not so much my desire, in fact.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, it's sometimes these things happen out of something one unexpected that happens, and these circumstances then shape the whole course of a career.
Yeah, it was an assignment for 2 weeks, and I spent years now. So it's strange. Yeah. And also to survive in that field, you need to be flexible in the sense to accept to assignment, because, you will always discover something. Some assignment, you have no idea where they will take you in fact, where they will take you in many sense. But always is very interesting. Always you learn something, and always you discover something else. So
yeah. Here in the catalog of the festival, in the little text that goes with your exhibition, or that gives a little bit more of context to your work, there's one sentence. It says that you always have kind of a novel-like life, and that has also even been turned into a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Could you expand a little bit on that? What does that mean?
Oh, okay. It's because in 2010, I wrote a book. The name is Le Pakistan à vif. There was only the French version of that book. And some later, many years after, in 2017, from that book, on demand of a publisher, I have made a comics, and it's telling the same stories in the book, but more funny way, in the sense, the idea was to explain a little bit about what is the daily life of a photographer in a complex and complicated country, but also it was explaining the politic and the complexity of that country in that moment, and it was also to make to make it on the way, or something dramatic can be also funny at the same time, because everything is not dramatic. There is always a way to look at the things other side. So, for example, in that comics, when I tell the story about the day I was purchased by a crazy mob in Rawalpindi, this became much more digest in the comics than in the book. The writing book have a lot of details, but the comics is bringing, with the draw, bringing a little bit of adventure. Is exactly the same fact, but is showing in a different way. This is why they write that, because they read the comics.
Okay, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, interesting detail.
The title of the comics is Le Pays des Purs, but it's only in French.
Only in French, but still available?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And now there's another book that just came out that you did together with Lois Lammerhuber, the festival director, in his editorial, Pakistan. How was the process? When did he approach you with the idea to make a book? And how did you work with him to make the edit for this book?
Okay, I met Lois in La Gacilly a few years ago, and we met again in Perpignan in the Visa pour l'Image, that's international festival of photography, and we discussed about photography and so. He was interested about doing a book about Pakistan, but that was not the right time because there is a time for everything. So that discussion started a few years ago. And this year in La Gacilly Festival, in front of my exhibition, he said to everybody, okay, next year in Baden, you will see a book, I will make a book. And he informed me he will make a book in this way. And it was so funny and so nice, yeah. So we do it.
Yeah, and it's it shows the work that you've done over the years in Pakistan. And what is it that you hope that the viewers will take away from the images in the book?
I don't know. It's too fresh, in fact. I just discovered the book right now. I discovered the exhibition right now. I don't get too much time to think about that. I hope it will be sort of travel in a country where there is not so many information and where there is not so many information coming to Europe about the tragedy of the news, but about the people and about the daily life, I don't think there is a lot of knowledge about this country. So I hope this is bringing a sort of invite to discover this country in real and to understand better and to, it's just transmission. I consider myself like making bridges in between different society or culture, and I think all photographers, in fact, we are trying to bring that transmission to the people are having the possibility to see the photos is like that. In fact, I think is, I don't know.
Yeah, this is exactly what I took away from the book, and this is what the power of photography has. To portray a region, a country, that might have, or that people only know from the news. They only hear a certain kind of news and just a country of conflict. But to see that people live there, they have their daily lives, they go about their lives. This is so important, and these pictures come from photographers like you that have worked there, lived there, got to know the people, and that can show us this other side of regions and countries like Pakistan, or other exhibitions here from countries like Afghanistan, the same way. So you get a window into another world that is often not shown in Western media.
Yes, and also another thing is being a woman. I was having access to women because something happened in Pakistan. For men photographers, it's more difficult to photograph women. In many parts of the country, they don't get any access. So I was sometimes very focused on women and girls to being conscient. It is only option for the people to know about them is my duty, being a woman, to expose them more in the good sense, to show a little bit of them spirit, of them manner to live, or it was also, I think, important. I get a grant to do a story about Pashtun women in 2013 from Canon, and I was spending a lot of time in that villages close to the border to Afghanistan, and I was so surprised. They welcomed me so well, and I spent very good time with them. And what was a little bit incredible was the fact they was very happy with photography. I was not imagining that. They was liking that. It was fun for them. Everything. We was not having too much possibility to communicate it because it was difficult for me to find any woman speaking English. But we was communicating with jokes and with precisely the photography was our medium to communicate together, and it was very interesting, to. And since that, I decided I have to document more about women, because before, in between 2008 and 2013, the story I was doing was for media, and there was not too much asking about that. It was asking more about news, situation of linked with geopolitics, and in general, the men was in the center of the stories. So during many years, I don't meet any woman. It was just like, what are the women? I need to meet the woman. So this took me time, to realize I have to ask to the men the authorization to meet them wife, them daughters, them children, and because they decide of that, they decide if you will be accepted or not. Yeah. But after, when I was inside, it was wonderful, to meet them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How difficult was that to convince the men or to get access to the woman through the men?
I don't think it was that difficult because them proper wife was asking them to invite me to them part of the house, because the house is divided in two parts. So, but them, they was having a foreign guest, and they doesn't wanted to bother me to meet, because they know also when you go inside the part of the woman, you will stay stuck for hours. So by politeness, they doesn't want to bother me, and they never proposed to me. But when I started to ask that, they said, yes, of course. And the woman was so happy, to also see that foreigner, because for them it was like to look TV, because in the start they were just like, okay. She looked like us, in fact, because there was, you can imagine remote villages where they never see any foreigners, never. For them, it was also a discovery. For both of us, we was looking each other like a discovery, you know, and after that first step, we started to have some exchange of, in the way of friendship, Of course, with the limitation of the languages, this is just... Yeah.
Do you usually go alone, or do you have a translator or someone with you?
Yes, I have a translator with me, but the translator was a man. So inside the part of the woman, I was alone. Yeah.
And how would you describe the society in Pakistan at this point? What kind of country is it? Relationship, men, women, and the dynamics in society. What are the current challenges that people face? And what is life like in Pakistan?
So there is not only one kind of life, there is a lot of kind of life. First, there is different provinces with different languages. Inside any provinces, there is other languages. There is different. It look like the same culture from far away, but in fact, it's like an onion. You take one layout, and after there is another and another and another. Each of them is making a big piece, but everything is completely different if you look at it with a lot of attentions. And you can, for example, the province of the south, the province of Sindh, can look more like India, and the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa can look more like Afghanistan, and the province of the north, close to the Himalaya, they have a lot of links with China for some part, and also, it was the corridor of the trade, what we call also the Silk Road. So many influence came in different times. And all that is there, but you have to look at with very many attention, because, for example, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is the place where the Buddhism born, and but there is very few people knowing that. Only the people working on Museum of Archaeology, for them is obvious, but for you and me maybe it's not. So when you went there and you discover there is that huge archaeological places with a lot of history, and what is interesting in Pakistan, in fact, is there is a lot of things are, the Gandhara is telling a huge history of archaeology and history of that place, but also the Indus Valley civilization is a big civilization of 6,000 years ago. And when you saw, for example, in the book, the photo of the Moanas are living on boat like they were living on boat 6,000 years ago, and they are part of that civilization. So there is a lot of things, you cannot define Pakistan in one or sentence. Mm-hmm. And this is about cultural heritage, but about the system of the society. What is difficult is the hierarchy, because you have a system of hierarchy very strong, and people don't seem equal, and this is very hard for us to apprehend, to live with. Yeah. So I don't want to develop too much that part, because I will be not able to do it in English. But you can imagine there is people with a lot of richness in their hand, but and people like this little girl living in this kind of places with no shoes and no food. This is unfair, and this is like it is in Pakistan. And sometimes Pakistan is considered like in develop on the process of development, but depend. Depend, because sometimes you go to some places and you don't see that process. Absolutely not. So there is a big gap in between the society and in between the people, and
it's of course difficult to talk about the country as a whole. I mean, there's so much diversity within this big country, and in this, your book does a good job to show these kind of differences, the different traditions that are still alive that you talked about, that are centuries old, and people still live with these traditions and hold them up. So it's very, very fascinating to look through your book and see the images telling all these different stories. It's like a mosaic, like little pieces that are put together and that give this very diverse picture of a country.
Yeah, and there is also another things, only according to some study I've read, only 5% of the people have a love marriage. The rest, 95%, is a arranged marriage. So this is very important in the society in the sense they cannot choose with who they will have to spend the life, with who they will have to have children. And it's like that since almost always, in fact. And they don't look so unhappy about it. But in fact, I think it's a society where the happiness is forbidden. This is what is also very sad, because nothing is built for try to go in the direction of happiness. And in Europe, we are clearly building our life going to that direction. But there is not the target to be happy. The target is to have food and to make your children to study, to have better condition, to have better food. It's just economical struggle, but there is no really a sense of individuality. There is the individual don't exist. You are part of a family, but you are not alone. And the good thing is you will be not in the street begging for surviving, because you will have always the structure of the network of the family. But at the same time, you have no freedom. So they have to live with that complex system. But now many people are traveling and studying outside and thinking, oh, this is not the life we want. And there is big changes. But the big changes are very recent. Maybe the last 10 years are the more big changes in the desire of the young people. The young people have changed their mind now. They don't want to vote like the grandfather or father is asking. They want to choose a little bit more. But it's very difficult, because at the end, they feel so bad to say no to their parents. They cannot say no. And is that complexity, and something is a little bit schizophrenic about the life, about the decision, So what I observe, unfortunately, is a society growing very quickly, because there is a lot of, it's one of the countries having more children in the world. But at the same time, there is many problems for the resources. They don't have enough resources, enough water, enough food, and there is always a big problem with flood, of the melting of the glacier, and so many catastrophic fact is making the life much more difficult. And it's very complicated, but not only in Pakistan, but in Pakistan is how to say it, is very important to understand the issue of the water, because it's a world issue, and the glacier of Himalaya are bringing water to so many other countries, not only Pakistan. So they don't manage that. They don't plan well. They are not, okay, maybe the problem, they are not projecting for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. They are just projecting for tomorrow. And maybe this is one of the problems also.
Yeah. Just a short-sighted way of looking at the problems, and very complex.
But they don't like to say generalities, because this is a little bit, this is why. But this is why it's a complicated discussion. And because this is not the fact of everyone. Of course, there is a lot of people thinking about, okay, we should do something, and we should, to keep the water of the rain, and to build some dam, and to, of course, there is a little bit of planification and organization. But what I wanted to say is, they are a little bit late, in the sense, if they was having done that from the start, the disaster will be less right now when there is some flood coming or some catastrophic things, It's just that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. It's been very insightful to talk with you about your work in Pakistan and as a photojournalist. Well, thank you very much, and all the best of luck for the future, for the upcoming projects.
Thank you, Kai. Thank you very much.
Thank you.